There was a human named Bud who realized very early on that everyone else was different from him, and that it could mean many things. One such difference was how Bud heard and saw chatter. To be frank, he thought it was the dumbest thing on earth he'd ever witnessed, and he looked forward to when he'd be surrounded by more intelligent human beings. And another was how more intensely Bud seemed to experience the world than most others. Touch could be tricky, because if a touch was too light, then it'd feel like a ghost. And faces were a difficult theme to navigate. It felt pointless to learn now. Of course, he learned to adapt, using what he had, and was learning to find the calm for the storms. But Bud kept feeling as though he was being broken, again and again and again, over and over and over. And he grew exhausted every time he was picking up his pieces, knowing full well that he'd break again and that he'd eventually be too tired to pick himself up again. By itself, the exhaustion was terrifying in how welcome it could be. And then Bud had the thought of just staying broken, to let himself break time and time again until he was an intricate cobweb too detailed to look like a desperate measure, or something just pathetic enough to stop breaking. 10 years passed with this, the last 7 of which were the worst thing Bud had ever felt and dreaded to continue. And after 7 years of painful attempts to calm and to reassure himself, Bud could begin anew. There was nothing old left to judge him anymore, and then in the middle of his life, Bud had to move away. And whatever niceties or kindness there could have been in this new place, it would be too late to make a difference to Bud. He was bitter and he was angry. It stayed with him for the rest of his life. And he hated himself for feeling at all, in a place he felt meant nothing but showing how he'd fail and how he would continue to fail forever. He had no love left for this. In a way, that was a good thing. That meant the end of something that felt like an act in a play, which meant there could be a new act. It meant Bud had one large fear of his had been given feelings ready to name. In the worst part of his life, Bud had felt that he couldn't even let himself rot so he could renew himself, because he hated the habits he was falling back into, and the ones he was adapting. He hated that he could be good at lying. A good liar doesn't need to know themselves to make do, or make believe. Meaning he'd never know himself as anything but the pieces he let himself have of himself. Bud was going to remember more and more, and reflect on those things again. This time from a place that didn't feel like a helpless beginning. After seeking to be wise and striving to be strong, Bud looked to be happy. It helped to be someplace he had wanted to go. It helped being older now. It helped to make compromises, the ones at his own expense, a rare thing than usual. Ultimately, this is not the end. It's a very final discontinuation instead, because Bud's life will keep on going after this. And he will prosper, and he will live. He'll die someday, of course. But he's going to live so well he won't have any more regrets.